G'day guys, Seeney here. Welcome to another episode on the Australian Wealth channel. And in this episode, we need to talk about what the housing market has done in the last month. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Really helps to get these videos out to more people. So if you've been following Australian real estate for the last year or so, you know that it's been an absolutely insane year by any metric. Pretty much every single capital city and regional area has gone up in value, which has been absolutely amazing. It hasn't just been a little bit, but it's been a lot. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what's actually happened in the last month, what we can expect going forward, and where's some of the areas that I'm looking to invest when it comes to property in the future. So please make sure you like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I'll continue to make more. I hope you guys also had a great break over Christmas and New Year, but now we are in the new year, so it's time to get back into it. So it's good to take a little bit of time away from finance and just enjoy some time with your family and your friends, but now, you know, we're back to it. And that means we mean business. So first of all, we're going to go through each of the capital cities, because what we're seeing is a bit of a divergence between some of the capital cities. This is not something that we'd really seen too much of before. Pretty much everything just went up and went up massively. But we're starting to see a two-speed property market here. And there's a number of different reasons for this, which I'm going to get into in the video. So without further ado, we're going to start with the largest property market in Australia, and that is, of course, Sydney. Now, in the last month or so, the Sydney property market went up 0.3%. So this is a far cry from some of the massive gains that we'd actually seen in the past in Sydney. Only a very small move this month. However, having said that, annually, Sydney property is up about 25.3%, which is huge. So if you'd bought at the start of the year, you're doing very well. I was actually doing some filming in a Vaucluse mansion, which was a waterfront one, where the guy actually purchased it roughly a year ago, just over a year ago, for $22.5 million. That same property is now worth $30 million. So, yeah, it's been an amazing time to earn, you know, what's that, like $7.5 million in 1 year, just on property appreciation. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to buy into those kind of places? So that's Sydney. Now, the next one, which is another very interesting one, is Melbourne. Now, Melbourne has actually gone down this month, not by much, only by 0.1%. So we've seen a decline for the first time in Melbourne that I can actually remember. It's been one of the less performing property markets in Australia. Unfortunately, it's still had some great gains over the year, but it hasn't performed as well as some of the other capital cities. Annually, Melbourne is up 15%. So still a great result. So now, following on from that one, this is actually one that blew me out of the water. I didn't expect to see a rise in price this great from this particular capital city. And thankfully for me, I actually have an investment up in this particular city, which is very exciting. And that city is, of course, Brisbane. Now, Brisbane this month alone is up 2.9% in a month. That is a huge increase. You know, this is a market that is a little bit more affordable, so there's more room for it to grow. And what we've seen is that annually, Brisbane is actually up 27%. So even more than Sydney. And as we can see, it's just not slowing down. You know, we're still seeing massive growth in Brisbane. And following on from that, another market which I'm actually looking at very closely for my next investment is in fact Adelaide. Now, Adelaide is also another market that is much cheaper than Sydney and Melbourne. And what we've seen this month in Adelaide is the market has gone up 2.6%. So still absolutely rip-roaring in some of these other capital cities outside of Sydney and Melbourne. Annually, the market is up 23.2% in Adelaide. Following on from that, we have Perth, which is up 0.4%. Over the last year, it's been up 13%. So, you know, Perth generally hasn't performed as well as some of the other capital cities, but thankfully we've seen some growth over there in the last year or so. In Hobart, we saw a 1% increase, so not as crazy as what we have seen from Hobart. And over the year, it is up 28%. So still a fantastic result from Hobart. It's just been an absolute buyer's dream down there with the amount of appreciation that people are getting so fast. So pretty impressive results from there. Canberra is up 0.9%, and that is up annually about 24.9%. So what we've seen across the board is property's gone up massively, but there is a little bit of a disparity there, especially going forward into the future. Now, one of the reasons that this is actually happening is due to affordability. Now, whether we like to talk about it or not, in Sydney and Melbourne, a lot of people are starting to get priced out of the market. This is becoming an incredibly expensive market, Sydney in particular, with the median value of a house around $1.1 million, which is pretty crazy for most people. I'm very glad I bought a few years ago and not having to buy my first home now, because that can be quite difficult for a lot of people. And the same thing with Melbourne, it is quite expensive. So we are starting to see a drop off in growth, because I think we're kind of hitting the cap of what is actually affordable for most people. Even knowing there's no correlation between property and wages, we're still starting to see some of those caps of affordability get hit. However, in some of the other cities that are significantly more affordable, such as Brisbane and Adelaide, there's still a lot of investor activity and there's a lot of buying activity, because it is so much cheaper to get hold of a property. I'm actually about to buy a new investment property in Adelaide. It's a market that I've actually been doing a little bit of looking at very recently, and it's about 40 minutes out of the city. And this particular property is going to be worth around $400,000 when we purchase it. Now, if you wanted to get that same property in Sydney, 40 minutes, which is roughly the distance that I live from the CBD, you're looking at easily $1.1 to $1.2 million. So it's significantly more expensive in Sydney, which is the point I'm trying to make. But there's still a lot of room for growth. And this is why I'm looking at some of these other markets, because there's a lot of runway there. So it's something worth considering if you are looking at investing. You don't necessarily need to invest in the city that you live, because it's easy to look at Sydney property prices and go, that is just crazy. I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to afford that. Well, if you start somewhere else, you can build into it, which is the great thing about investing in property. It doesn't have to be right where you live. So pretty incredible growth across the board. It's been very, very interesting to watch the last year. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to do cash out refinances to go and jump into additional properties going forward, because the market has just gone up an absolutely insane amount. Now, of course, if we break down the difference between capitals and regions, this month the capitals went up 0.6%, and regional properties have gone up 2.2%. So we're still seeing massive growth in the regions. In fact, in the regions, we've seen about 25.9% compared to 21% in the capitals. So pretty crazy. So nationally, if we combine everything, which doesn't really matter too much because it's all individual markets, but if we combine everything, it's 1% growth just this month alone. So what am I seeing for 2022? I think there's still a hell of a lot of demand out there. I know that I'm still going to be purchasing properties going forward. I see a lot of room for growth, especially in these more affordable capital cities. So I think that going forward, Sydney and Melbourne might see a little bit of growth, but I think a lot of the other capital cities are going to still see massive growth. I'm pegging between 12 and 15% for some of these smaller capital cities. I think for Sydney and Melbourne, it's probably going to be more on the 6 to 7% side before things really start to slow down in 2023. But of course, we just don't know. There's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. It all depends on inflation, what the Reserve Bank does, what APRA does when it comes to lending standards. There's so much that can change so fast. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Whereabouts are you looking at investing? I'd be really keen to hear about that. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Seeney. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Really helps to get these videos out to more people. And we'll see you later.